Everyone. I hope everybody's well on this Wednesday morning. It's halfway through the week. I'm sure you guys are already thinking about your weekends. My name is Chastity Navarro, and I am the events manager at the Boca Chamber. And welcome to another virtual event brought to you by the Boca Chamber on how to succeed in uncertainty. We are so excited to have Louis Fogel here today, who's going to be our speaker. And before we get to Louis, let's just have a little Zoom housekeeping with Sophia. Sophia.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention a couple things. Number one, this entire presentation will be recorded and everyone will receive a follow-up email with the recording to this presentation as well as the slides of the presentation. We will also be doing questions throughout the presentation and at the end. So if you would like to have a question or ask a question, if you go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a little chat icon. You can click that and type your message to everyone, or you can privately message Louis yourself or myself if you want me to vocalize your question for you. There's also a little reactions button at the bottom if you want to do like a thumbs up or a hand clap just to have some fun with it. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophia. So it is my pleasure to introduce Louis Fogel. I'm going to read his bio here. Louis is the owner and president of FL Sales Consultant LLC, an authorized sailor training center in Delray Beach, Florida. He empowers individuals, business owners, and corporations to improve their professional skills, implement consistent processes, and transform their companies into a sales-centric, customer-driven team. Using the sailor training methodology, Louis addresses a myriad of business-related issues such as sales and sales management training, leadership, coaching, goal setting, hiring assessments, lead acquisition strategies, communications, sales system, and process implementation. Louis's diverse career spans managing and leading teams across the U.S. with a strong focus in financial industry. He oversaw the relationship management of over 700 financial institutions, client programs, managed service and operations for several prestigious national firms, and was a co-founder and president of a broker-dealer. Early in his career, he worked in international banking in Israel. Using his expertise to help others, Louis has served on several corporate board of directors and nonprofit organizations. He is a past president of Downtown Boca Raton Rotary Club and is active in serving his community and helping others. So without further ado, Mr. Louis Fogel.
Chastity, thank you so much, and good morning, everybody. As a member of the Chamber, I have to tell you, I'm so impressed with what our Chamber has done, both in Boca Raton and Boynton Beach, and reaching out to all of us in so many ways every day, but in particular in these uncertain times. So I want to say thank you to the Chamber for doing that, and thank you for inviting me back. When the Chamber asked me to talk about time management in these difficult, uncertain times, it really came as no surprise to me because that happens to be one of the things that my clients have been talking about with me since probably mid to late March. And during that time, what we've tried to do is give people what I would call one or two golden nuggets that they can implement in their business and perhaps even in their daily life that will help them through these difficult times. Excuse me, my allergies are terrible, so I apologize. As I go through the presentation, please feel free to stop, ask me questions, challenge me. I'm okay with all of that. As Sophia said, there'll be a couple of polls and a couple of chats, and I'd like you to participate. And the reason I ask you to participate is twofold. One is, it gives me a sense that you're out there and I'm not just sitting in a room far away from you, and I can see that you're participating, so I know there's a tracking process going on. And the second, and more important than the first, is that I find when people participate, they get a lot more out of the presentation. So my request to you is do that and walk away with one golden idea. Before we jump into the presentation, though, I would like to just take a moment and mention a client. So JJ was a past client, a friend, and just for those of you who didn't know him, he was a Chamber ambassador. I'm going to tear up, I apologize. And a really good guy. So JJ passed away this month suddenly. JJ was a business owner in the community and had a business called Duceris and College Planning PhD, and hopefully his legacy will continue in that business. But I would like to transition from that into today's topic, and the first one is a poll question that I'm going to ask Sophia if she would put up on the poll, and that is, my belief is the local economy in the next 60 to 90 days will be either better, same, or worse. So please choose your answer, and then we'll ask Sophia to post it once everyone's had a chance to. Okay. Are the results now being shared? Can you see them?
Yes.
Great. So I always find this question an interesting one, and it's not that the person who said worse or the person who said better is right, but it's a sense of where you're coming from. What's your belief system? I was telling, just before we started this call, Chastity and Sophia and Sarah, that yesterday's class, before I began the class, I was playing Fleetwood Mac, and the song is, don't stop, and don't stop believing about tomorrow. So I believe part of what we need to do is begin to program ourselves into believing that there is a tomorrow and that tomorrow is going to be better than today. Now, I know you can't control tomorrow any more than I can control tomorrow, but what we both can do is we can begin to start focusing on what we control. And part of what we control will be our beliefs. So thank you for posting that slide or that share. And I'd like to go to the next one. So we can take that off. So one of the things I think it's important to keep in mind is that crises come and go. Now, you and I haven't lived through a pandemic unless you were around in 1918. I wasn't. I only look it. And but what we do know in crisis is that it's temporary, and that sometimes what happens is we get focused only on the present, and we can't see past today. We can't see tomorrow. So sometimes just looking back, this one just goes back a few years to crises that took place in 2000, 2001, another one in 2008. And you'll notice one thing in common in both charts. There was a period of time, and then it went and got better. So we're going to focus today on what does getting better look like and what can we do. So my next question on the poll is, how's your momentum right now? How's your time management right now? Okay, so if everyone's had a chance. So we see about a third say it's better. So here's my ask, and you don't have to agree to it. If you're one of those people who said it's better, I'm going to guess that you've learned some strategies and you have some tips that you could possibly share with us that would help us. I know in talking just earlier, as I mentioned before, with Chastity, she was talking about some of the things they're doing at the Chamber that are different. I would say better maybe than before. So get ready. If you're one of those people who said better, please share with us what you're doing. I'll share some of the things that I think we could be doing. A little bit better than half, almost 60% said about the same. And then you've got a few people who said not as good. So we're going to try to help two groups of people today. The ones that have said it's the same, almost 60%, and the ones that said it's worse. Okay? Because we want to get better. None of us are happy. And look, I'm a big believer you don't have to be sick to get better. So this isn't about being sick. This is just about how do we increase performance. And that's what we focus on in my business, helping people increase their performance. So we're going to stop that share slide. And I'm going to ask if somebody is comfortable, would you share with us what you're doing to get better? What are you doing to increase your performance? And there's a post out here which I think is great. and that is from Paul. And Paul says, if you don't want a better tomorrow, why would you want a tomorrow? That's a great, great question. And so if anyone says they're doing better on time management since COVID-19, take yourself off mute or come in the chat and just give us an idea of what you're doing that's helpful. And don't be bashful. We're all friends. We're all members of the chamber. And we're all going to, do funny things that screw up and things that are helpful. So please share with us what you're doing. It could be as small as I'm doing exercise on a regular basis. What are you doing that's different?
Riding my bicycle a lot more. Building websites.
Cool.
Hold on a second. My wife is. Hold on a second. What am I doing different? I did a lot of online work before, so I'm having more opportunity. I did a lot of online work before, so I'm having more opportunity. I'll let you continue, Louis.
We're gonna mute you temporarily. We're getting a lot of feedback, but I truly appreciate you sharing and jumping in with some thoughts and some ideas. So thank you for doing that. And if you want to come back in, we can bring you back in. From Jane to everyone, she says in the chat, we're doing more Zoom educational seminars weekly for our clients and prospects. So in the chat, if you would, if you're doing what Jane's doing, what the chamber is doing, just say yes in the chat. And if not, say no. So in your chat box, type in a yes or a no. Yeah, Sarah, I know you guys are. Awesome. Well, this is great. This is great. So these are some of the best practices. Bill Miller as well. Great. Another client. Yeah, so folks, it sounds like everyone's on the right track there. And one of the reasons why we like to do this and we suggest that you do this is the body language, the physiology that you get in front of your employees, in front of your prospects. Yeah, I said prospects. In front of your clients. It gives you an opportunity to read their body language. So Eric Solms writes, another client, I've divided into buckets. I'll fill each bucket every day. Physical, mindset, business. And then he writes, physical, relationships, faith, awesome. The goal is to do something that gets the bucket filled every single day. So Eric, if you could take yourself off mute and maybe just amplify on that for 30 seconds, please.
Good morning. How you doing, everyone? Thank you, Chamber, for doing this, and Louis, amazing. Always a pleasure to listen to you.
Thank you.
Basically, it's kind of like every single day I do something, right? So I exercise for 30 minutes. Like when I wake up, I listen to it's an application called Blinkist that basically gives me a summary of a book. During the day, I'll listen to something or I'll read a verse of the Bible. I develop relationships. I make sure that I'm connected with my friends and family. I'll do a video call, 2 video calls a day. I stay connected with my clients. I'm doing strategies for my business. So as long as I feel every single thing on the bucket, I'm happy. And it can be something really, really simple, like calling somebody that you haven't talked to for in a while, right? Or anything like that.
Eric, if I could ask you to share one other thing with us in terms of things that you're doing that are helping you be productive with time management and growing your business and reaching out to your existing client base. Could you just share with them, I don't know, another 15 seconds on your video that you're using?
So I'm using an application called Bonjoro. Because right now it's video is key. So I send personalized videos to all my clients, prospects, all clients, friends, family, and a lot of you in here have already seen one. But I'll share it on the link so if anybody's interested. But it's amazing. It keeps you connected, and right now you have to show that you care basically. And customer service is key for keeping that, right?
Yeah, I think Eric has done a good job in doing that, and it is one of the best practices. So in a crisis, what do we do? So you see some of the ideas that you've received from members of the chamber because they are proactive in growing their business. But in reality, what happens in crisis is one of three things, as you see on the screen. One is that oftentimes people freeze. They just are stuck and they're paralyzed. And that paralysis sometimes comes in the form of an analysis of what to do. And we call that paralysis by analysis. So if you're one of those people who are trying to perfect it before you do something, I'm going to suggest to you, don't. Take action, even if it doesn't work out. Some action is better than sitting back and doing absolutely nothing. And some of you are doing a great job in doing that from what I can see. I want to ask you a question. In these times that we're in of uncertainty right now, how are you going to be remembered by your clients, by your customers, by your prospects? I'll ask you this question. How will you remember the Boca Boynton Beach Chamber of Commerce when this is past us? Whether that means it's past us in 90 days or we look back in a time capsule long from now, how will you remember the chamber? So in the chat box, just chat down a couple of thoughts about what the chamber is doing for you during this time of crisis. And while you're doing that, I'll tell you, I think the chamber is doing a great job, and they're becoming very creative, because when we all like to go to the Wyndham and get together with the expo, that didn't happen, but they're working on other ideas to try to supplement that. And of course, coming to us with a ton of content, this being just one small piece of it. Will your clients remember you for being proactive? Will your customers remember you for inquiring about how they're doing? Yeah, supporting and educating. Absolutely, Jane. The interactive Zooms. Chamber stepped up. Yeah, Bill Miller's right. So how do you want to be remembered when it's past this time? I want to be remembered as people saying, you know what, you did something for me, and it wasn't related to, hey, how do we ring the register? But how do we help you during difficult times? My belief is that success comes from three parts. Part one is, what's your attitude? What's your belief? And then you need some techniques, like Eric was kind enough to share a technique with us. It's a tip he's using. Here's how I'm using video to touch my existing customers for customer service. Here's how I'm using video to prospect. Here's how I'm using video in other ways. And so that's a technique. And we all have to have our own techniques of what we're doing to grow our business and to sustain our business. And then we need behaviors. And behaviors are the things that we do consistently. And you heard Eric break down in buckets the things that he's doing personally, professionally, to help him get through these difficult times. And I'm going to suggest that those are the things, you know, if we're talking about attitude, it has to do with your philosophy. I mentioned to you earlier, whether you believe the glass is half full or half not, I can't change your belief. I can ask you to think about it just a little bit differently. If you don't have goals right now, please take some time to jot down some goals. They could be short-term, medium, or long-term, but create a goal system for yourself. In terms of the momentum that we need, I'm going to suggest to you that right now is the best time to get going. Because people say to me, well, I've lost the last 4 weeks. I've lost the last 2 weeks. And it goes back to that old Chinese proverb, and you know what it is. When's the best time to plant a tree? Well, we all know the answer to that. It was 20 years ago. But the Chinese have another one. And they say, when's the second best time? And they say it's today. So let's not worry about what we didn't do the last 4, 6 weeks, or whatever, 2 weeks. Let's make a commitment today to start doing some of the behaviors that we know are important. And so when we talk about behavior, technique, and attitude, I don't want you to go through the motions. I want you to actually think about what you're doing, because sometimes the attitude can be toxic. So if you're surrounded by people, and I know that many of us are surrounded by even family members, who may have a toxic attitude. You can't socially distance yourself by leaving them physically, but you can leave them mentally. Please don't let those people around you, as much as you love them, and perhaps they love you, put you in a place that you and I can't afford to be. So my suggestion would be is think about what attitude you have and what are you doing. I mentioned to you the importance of behavior. So it's not just behavior for the sake of doing behavior. It's working with goals, it's working with pipelines, it's creating a momentum, a rhythm, as opposed to these, what I call porpoises, the peaks and valleys. I get busy, I get going, I stop, I get derailed. Having momentum. Think of it kind of like a golf swing, if you will. Now, many people have no system, have no techniques, and they're just working very hard. If you'd like some ideas on techniques, if you'd like some ideas on behavior or attitude, I've made a pledge, and my pledge is I will give of my time, asking nothing in return. If you decide that you want to move forward and come back to be a client in the years to come, God bless. And if you decide, Lou, all I need is 15 minutes to help me strategize, you got my time. Give me a call. At the end, I'll give you my number. So I'd like to ask you this question. What's one thing you're struggling on right now? If you don't want to put it to everyone in the chat, don't mark everyone, just mark me. But I'd like you to share with either me or us, what's one thing you're struggling with right now? And I promise you I will not read your name if it's sent privately. I will read the struggle, but not the name. And we're all struggling from time to time with different things. Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of things that are very normal. Lack of clear direction, how to move forward, not thinking that the PPP loan is all that important, missing the human connection with my clients and prospects. Here's one open, feeling motivated to make tough calls. Lack of appreciation by clients during these tough times. Yep. Not unusual. Consistently making the calls to my strategic list of prospects with an appropriate message. So what's that say to you? What does that tell you? Here's what it tells me. It tells me you're not alone. It tells me that a lot of people on this call are sharing their thoughts, some publicly, some privately. It doesn't matter. My point is to say to you, folks, we're in this together. This isn't just affecting one person, it's affecting everyone, but it affects everyone at different times in different ways. And we're going to talk about some of the things that we think might be helpful. So the question is, how do you feel about your personal presence? How do you feel about your prospecting, your pipeline, your performance, your profit potential or loss? If you're not journaling, I strongly suggest you journal. And so in the chat box, if you journal, type yes. If you don't, type no. If you want to do it privately, do it privately. If you want to do it publicly, do it publicly. I'd like to get a sense of how many people journal daily. So we've got a bunch of people being very honest and saying, no, I don't. And there's probably a reason you don't. So let me share with you the reason I didn't, and then I'll tell you why I do. When I first heard about journaling, I had this image of my older sister, Sharon. She had a little pink journal with a little padlock that her younger brother, Louis, would always try to get into and break into her journal and read her innermost thoughts. Fortunately, I guess for me and maybe for her, I never got into that journal. But it reminded me of that's what quote unquote girls do. And so as a older person, I thought that sounded kind of hokey. But eventually, one of my friends said to me, Lou, you got to try it. At least try it for 30 days and see what happens. And so I did. And I'm going to suggest to you, if you want to improve how you feel about yourself, start with something simple. Write down what you're grateful for. It could be one thing, it could be 30 things. But if you're going to start journaling anything, start with a gratitude journal and start with, I'm grateful for today. And you're going to see how the things that we have on this screen right now will then roll into what your personal presence is like. Because when you're feeling better about yourself, it's much easier to prospect. It's much easier to focus on your pipeline, and performance will increase, but a journal will help you in many ways to do that. If you want to change your attitude, we all know what it starts with. It's a belief system. So if your beliefs are negative, your judgments are going to be negative. And chances are you won't take the actions that you need to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And so whether you believe you can or believe you can't, as the saying goes, you're going to be right. It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know that. So I'd like you to ask yourself, what are my beliefs? What do I honestly believe the future holds for me? And you control that belief. You can't control the economy, but you can control that belief. I'd like you to ask about what your commitment is, your desire, your outlook to responsibility. If you want to turn your dreams and your goals into reality, you have to take action. And desire is the motivation to do whatever it takes to succeed. And if there's a will, there is a way. Now, outlook is also a belief of possibility and abundance, if you want it to be, or it could be the other way around, limitation. I suggest to you the outlook of abundance is much healthier than the outlook of limitation. And be responsible for what you own and what you control, and not allowing yourself to externalize or make excuses for all the other things that you don't control, because those aren't going to help you. Focus on the ones you do. So in your chat box, how has your selling behavior changed? If you're in the sales profession, answer it that way, since COVID-19 started. If you're not in the sales business and you're in a management role or a support role, how has your behavior changed? What are the things that you've done differently as a result of it? Example, for those people who are salespeople and they were accustomed to doing face-to-face meetings, or for those people who are accustomed to going to networking events, great networking events from our chamber, how has it changed for you now that that's gone, now that the expo is gone? Some of you paid significant amounts of money to go to other events around the county, and that's gone. What have you done to replace it? Let's see what we got in the chat box. Okay, change fundraising strategy to virtual events. Good, good, Judy. Learning to have meetings virtually using technology. Excellent. Pushing harder to build the revenue before we potentially see a sharp decrease in opportunity. Good. More emphasis on phone calls to prospects. So seeing that. Miss the personal interaction. Going to these Zoom meetings has helped somewhat. Good. Got it. So a lot of different people have tried different things. So my suggestion is, you all know people on this call, and some of the people are your friends, some of them you know casually. Reach out to other people and say, what are you doing that's working? I know several of you are very successful people, and I'm going to suggest that will be helpful. So I want to help you revise some of your selling behaviors. Let's look at what's paused. Networking events, in-person calls, travel. I get all that. But you've already heard from some of your colleagues here on this call, video conferencing, social selling, cold calling, thought leadership. So if you're not posting in LinkedIn in one of the groups that you're involved in and showing you're a thought leader, hey, today could be the day. Go into one of the groups that you belong in, and hopefully you're in LinkedIn, and be a thought leader. All of you are experts in your field, and most of you belong to one group or more. Be a thought leader, post something, be known as somebody who comes up with ideas. Webinars online, I've heard a lot about that, and client relationships. So whether you're using the phone to do the client relationship, or you're using some promotional material, imprinted material to send somebody to a gift to someone, now's the time to do something that people don't expect. Your customers, your prospects aren't expecting you to send them a gift. It doesn't have to be worth a ton of money, but I'm going to suggest to you there's something you could be doing to build and strengthen your relationships. So I want to talk about personal behaviors, and some of you have already addressed it on the call. But I want to start with mind and body. You heard Eric talk about it and some of the other people who jumped in. I think Paul, if I got your name wrong, I apologize. But start by walking. Some of you are not joggers, I'm not. If you're not accustomed to going on long walks, take a short walk. Because we know the endorphins will help mindset and help get out of a funk. Adjust diet. One of the things that we know is what we eat is who we are. Spend 30 minutes working out if you can. A workout doesn't have to be in a gym. A workout can be in your living room. It could be in your bedroom. For those of you who bike ride, my wife and I like to do that each morning, go for a bike ride. Stretch, yoga, get outside, even if that outside is just the perimeter of your home, and put on your mask. So I'm looking for my mask. Wear your mask, all right? In terms of home and family, I don't know about you, but this weekend I decided, okay, the garage, I got to do some work on the garage. So organize your garage or whatever it is you got to do. We don't have basements here, but those turn into our garages. Work in your yard if you have a yard. Paint something if you have something to paint. But do something together that will help you change your focus. And I've already mentioned to you, create some goals. Really important. So, how do we plan and prepare professionally for behaviors? If you haven't done a SWOT analysis, for those of you who need help with that, happy to help on that. What are your strengths of your company right now? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities that you have? And trust me, there's opportunity right now during this adversity. And what are the threats to your business? Where's the growth potential? Where's there an opportunity for margins to increase? Yes, I said increase. And what new products, what new sales pitches, if you will, can you come up with during COVID-19? Areas that you wouldn't have looked at before. I have a client who has a very, very narrow vertical, and they are very successful. They're 50 years old plus. It's a family-run business, third generation. And they had a myopic view of their business, a singular lens focus on their business. And now what they're doing is they're opening their lens. And what they're seeing is opportunity that was there all along that they never focused on. So taking time, I know there's a client who does this successfully, and I'm going to call them out because they've mentioned it publicly, but Plum Productions every year sits down and does a SWOT analysis. So Rob and Jen Jager sit down and they examine the business for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I don't know if Rob or Jen are on the call, but if they are, I'll just stop for a moment and see if they're with us. Okay, I guess not, because they do a great job in examining their business for growth potential, for profit margins, etc. Another way we look at the business is I'd ask you to examine your business from what we call care. Look at who's in your book of business right now that you want to keep, and write down the attributes of what it is that makes that client, that customer, a keep customer. Chances are they're fun to work with. Chances are they pay their bills. Chances are they give you some referrals. and they're just nice people to work with, right? Write down those attributes and make sure you're watering the garden, you're weeding the garden, you're making sure they're not neglected and not taken for granted. I know most of you are doing all of that already. Second, A for care, attain. Who are the customers on your list you want to attain, and what's your strategy? What's your technique for those people? R, who do you want to recapture? We've all lost customers over our lifetime. Who would you like to get back? And then, of course, we've got people in our book of business today that are there, but we want to expand the relationship. Now, when you use care, you can only use one letter. So if they're a keep customer and you want to expand them, you're just going to put an E next to their name and write down the attributes. So if I'm in an attain mode, I have on my list my trophy list. Here are the top 5 people I want to acquire in 2020, top 5 customers, companies. Write them down, list them out for yourself. You know, we can't manage anything we can't control. So if you're tied up in politics or you're tied up in economy, folks, unless you're the head of the Treasury or some other position like that, we don't have any control over that stuff. We can't manage that, but we can manage our behaviors. We own that. So I want you to put your focus on not what all the stuff that's going on around you that is out of your control, but the stuff that's in that box. And when you look at those things that are important to you and you have control over them, I'm going to suggest that's where you should devote your energy. Because we divert energy to focusing on things that are important, but we have no control over them. Let it go, move on to the next thing. So in the chat box, what are some of the sales skills more important today to you? Give me 1 or 2 or 3 sales skills that you think are more important to you today. What would they be? We've covered some of them. Clear communication, excellent. Very important. Chastity and Sarah and Sophia and I were talking about the need to communicate more frequently is evident and very important to the best leadership. Empathy. Wow, I love that. Thanks, Abram. Abraham said empathy. I can't agree with it more. Expand hours of doing business. Yeah. Morning, noon, afternoon, evening. Absolutely. Eric says focus on them and their environment before touching anything else about you and your product. So Eric, I think I know what you're saying, but if you could share and amplify on that thought for just a moment, please.
Hello again. No, basically, it's just, you know, when I'm talking to anybody, it's how's your family doing? How are you doing? Like I had a customer the other day that they had to let go of 20 people and they call in. They needed some technical work. So I was talking to them and I was like, I know you're healthy. I know everybody in your family is healthy, but I know you have a big heart pain. You know, you had to let go of all your employees. So we're here for you. We understand what you're going through. And then she started crying. She's like, thank you so much for what you're telling me. It's amazing that you have that touch with us. And because you've known us, you know, I worked with this company for like over 10 years, but you know, it's about them, right? That's basically the focus.
Totally, Eric. And I know I had a conversation with a client yesterday. She's an HR director of a large company. And for those of you who've been through this process of downsizing, right-sizing, terminations, we often know the human resources person comes in and has to deliver the bad news, sometimes with the line of business person, sometimes without. And she said to me, you know, Louis, I have to do that, and I have to homeschool 3 young children, be a wife, and she went on to list all the things that are going on in her life. And to Eric's point, we have to take time. And as somebody else said so wisely, Abraham said, empathy, very, very important. So kudos to all of you who are practicing that. So in developing some of the techniques that we can use, I'm going to suggest to you that one of them is a technique of, hey, listen, I'm calling you right now. You don't know who I am. It's a cold call, but I'm just trying to get a sense of which businesses are open and which ones are not. We're open right now, wanting to find out whether your business is open. It's a technique. I'm going to suggest you need to have some technique during these tough times if you're going to prospect, whether that be calling your existing customers, past customers, new prospects. Learn some techniques, and I'm happy to work with you on that. So people are going, if they don't see you on the video screen, they're going to listen to your tone. So be really, really good about enunciation, adjust inflection, softening statements, empathy, as you heard, the volume. People are going to listen to your voice. So use your voice, control your voice effectively. Now, we all are guilty of using what we call wishy-washy words. They'll say things, I'm just calling. When you say just, you minimize everything you're going to say after that. Or we'll use buzzwords in our industry. So I'm going to suggest to you, let's get rid of the buzzwords, even though you may think your prospect knows it or your client knows it. Let's focus on words that mean something to them as well. The reflection is important. Are you mirroring and parroting phrases and words that your prospects are using, your customers are using? Are you using pain indicator terms to try to find out what's going on in their world? But trust me, a lot of people are having lots of different pains. Find out what their pain is and see whether or not you guys can even solve for it. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. You heard me talk a little bit ago about those people who are stuck and they're in that paralysis by analysis, they're frozen. And Voltaire said, perfect is the enemy of good. Please take the next step. Don't wait to perfect something. He said it in the 1700s during the Enlightenment period. It's as true today as it was then. I want to thank you for attending. I want to put up on the screen and give you my phone number. As I mentioned to you, I'm doing 15 minutes of coaching. I'm not a psychologist, so don't call me for that. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I am here to help you strategize and help you give you some techniques if you'd like. If you want to schedule a meeting, go to calendly.com/Lewis/Fogel, and you can book an appointment with me or call me. And with that, I'll turn it back to Chastity and see if there are any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Louis. This was incredible. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. Does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask before we conclude? You can put it in the chat. You can raise your hand. Give you a second. Just a bunch of thank yous.
I thank you all for being on the call. And I meant what I said. The Chamber has done a lot to help us all. I thank the Chamber for what they're continuing to do and ask you, how will you remember the Chamber? And I think we know the answer to that. How will you be remembered? So if you want to work on improving your performance, call me for no obligation. Happy to sit down with you. And thank you, Chastity and Sophia and Sarah and everyone at the Chamber for inviting me back to speak today. And I wish everyone great success. And as I like to say, you know, go forth, do the behaviors, and good selling, everybody. Bye now.
Thank you so much, Louis. Greatly appreciated. You all have an amazing, wonderful day. Just wanted to give you a quick little reminder that we have tons of resources, as you heard, on our Chamber website and our Chamber events. We have a great virtual presentation tomorrow from our very own Mayor Scott Singer, who's going to give an update on the city regarding COVID-19. Tons of other stuff for you to look at. We have a ladies' night happy hour virtually tomorrow at 5. You ladies can join us. We'd love to see you there. And don't forget to download our app. We have tons of stuff at your fingertips. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.
Bye.